And that's comrades. This is Chief Guard of Republic Radio Show, Radio Veterans Shout Out Show with your co-hosts Mike Tuman and Paul Burvitt every Saturday noon until 2 on WRMN 1410 AM, the Fox River Valley Media Network. We are also streaming on WRMN 1410's YouTube channel. Afterwards, we will upload the shows commercial free onto the Chief Guard of the Republic's YouTube channel. You can call us in at 847-931-1410. You hit us on the text at 505-926-1410. And if you go to WRMN1410.com, you can hit on the stream live. So, Paul, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing, reasonably okay and everything. Looking forward to our movie night over at Post 104 tonight. That's going to be fun.
What's the film?
American Graffiti.
Oh, nice.
A couple of our guys are hot rodders, and of course they're a little bit older than me, so that's just right in their generation and everything. So it's going to be fun. We're going to set up the Pinewood Derby is actually a copyrighted, or what do you call it? It's an official logo of the Boy Scouts of America, so no one else can really use it unless you're licensed by the Boy Scouts of America. So we're calling it the Wooden Car Downhill Race Track. So we have one of those, and we're hoping to get kids, get the fathers in there with their kids and everything, because we're trying to show movies that are acceptable to all ages and get people in there. It's kind of like a little fundraiser. We don't charge for the movie, but we do. There it is. We have a 50-50, progressive 50-50 raffle going. So when you come in to see the movie, you buy a 50-50 raffle ticket if you want. We're not forcing anyone to do anything like that.
I won the Pinewood Derby at St. Nick's at PAC 3647 in 1968.
Nice. Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today was like internet and scams. And mostly, I'd like to focus on how it affects veterans, but it affects everyone out there. So if you're listening, we're going to have a couple tips and clues for you to keep yourself from being scammed and to to stop you from giving money to organizations that don't really deserve it. So one of the, we had our Dunkin' Donuts veterans was at every Tuesday, between, if guys start rolling in at 8, and it's usually over by 10:30, but we start the meeting directly at 9 with the Pledge of Allegiance. It's unofficial. You don't have to sign up for anything. You just show up as, you could be a veteran or a veteran supporter. Just introduce yourself, and, a lot of group of good guys, and they're passing out information. One of the things that happened is someone had gotten into an email of one of our regulars, right? And that's like called a hacked email. And then they sent out an email, and it was really, kind of obvious to me, but not really obvious, wouldn't be obvious to everyone out there. And they said, "Oh, I'm in the hospital. I had this. I'm recovering, but it's working real slow. But my granddaughter came to visit me, and she's doing this art project at school, and she needs some help with it. And if you can see free to send her a Amazon gift card to cover her expenses, that would be great." And after one of these guys sends the Amazon gift card out, thinking it's all legit, because you really want to do good, you want to help your friends, and he knows the guy, he knows the name, he knows the email got sent out there, and he calls the guy up and he says, "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't come visiting you in the hospital." The guy's like, "What do you mean? I'm not in the hospital. I don't even have a granddaughter." It's like, so he's like, you got to watch out for that stuff. There's a scam, and there's so much stuff available on there. Like, if you do the basic investigate, this is what's scary, right? So your life is an open book on the internet, absolute open book on the internet. So I could find out some old people, let's say gentleman dies. I go to obituaries, and I find this older guy dies, and he says he left behind a wife, children and grandchildren, and all their names are listed in the obituary, right? So now I do a quick search, and I find the phone number, because a lot of these people still have hard lines, right? And go to an old yellow white pages, right? Bam, picked up the widow's phone number, and then I pick out one of the names of one of the grandchildren, and I call and I go, "Oh, your grandson, whatever, your grandson Jerry is in jail." And he asked me to call you because I'm the only number he could remember. But he wants you to send him bail money. Here, you could wire it or Zelle it or something directly to me, all right? And the old lady's just like, "Oh my grandson, oh, he's in trouble. Oh, I need to help him." And then they wire 5 bills. He needs 500 bail money or something, and they do it without thinking, and they just lost 500. So my mother calls me. This is several years ago. Thank God she calls me first. And it really was kind of late at night. So I'm like, "What's up, Mom?" She goes, "Where's Jerry at?" I go, "Jerry? He's in Afghanistan." "Are you sure he's not in California?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure he's not in California. He's in Afghanistan with the Army right now." He goes, "Well, one of his friends called me and says he's in jail in California." I'm like, "Oh, Ma, I'm glad you called me first, because that's one of the most basic scams out there." That's when they first started. It's nice because they use the phones, and old people have hard lines, and a lot of people don't even have caller ID on the hard lines. They just pick it up, and there you go. And they're scamming people out. If they have to make 100 phone calls in a night to get $500. Hey, Paul, would you make 100 phone calls for $500?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's easy money. It's easy money. They're not paying taxes on it. We got a caller. Let's see.
Yeah. Hey guys. Hey Paul. Hey Mike. How you guys doing?
Hey Larry. How you doing?
Hey Larry.
I'll tell you a scam right at Heinz. I was at Heinz the other day at the pharmacy. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm waiting to get my medicine, and this guy walks in there and says, "I'm a veteran. Anybody have any money?" So I say to him, "Are you actually a veteran, or do I need to call security?" And he walked out of the place. He wasn't even a veteran.
No,
what they do is, yeah.
Yeah, that's the most grassroots of scams.
Where they just show up. I says, "Are you actually a veteran?" And he goes, and just walked out. He wasn't. And then I said, "See what bullshit? People just came here because Heinz is an open facility, and you always have people begging you for money. Hey guy, I need a few bucks to go home and all that, and they just hang out there." And you got to call security to ask them to leave. You know what I mean?
Well, they have an even worse problem at Bobby Brown, the West Side
Jesse
one.
Brown, yeah. Wherever you go, there's always people hanging out there. "I need some money," or "Can you help a veteran out?" And I asked them, "Are you actually a veteran?" And when you confront them, they'll say, "Yeah," or they'll just walk out the door.
Yeah.
All right, just thought I'd bring it up. You guys do a great show. Thank you very much, and talk to you guys later. But another thing too. These scams are very, and Paul, you work the state's attorney. A lot of these veterans are old people. They don't have no one to talk to, nowhere to go. And so people call up and they're lonely and they start talking to them, and they want to believe these stories. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's where we as veterans and veteran organizations too need to be more open. We have to do the buddy checks. We have to check on our old timers, and we have to be open with them and give them our phone number and say, "Man, if you got a question on something, if you think something's not right, give me a call."
All right,
well,
thanks, guys.
Larry, what you say though is 100% true though, and not necessarily veterans, but one of the last things I did is we got a weird call from law enforcement in Australia, okay? And it was a woman, and I guess her husband was at the time, this is a while ago. So her husband was, I guess, a veteran of World War II or something like that. And he died, and somehow some goofball in Southern Illinois got hooked up with this woman, okay? And she was kind of like one of these Walter Mitty type people. She wanted to live on the edge or something like that. And she always visioned herself as a model for some gangster. Okay. And this guy from Southern Illinois kept contacting her, and she kept sending him money, Australian money that they were, going into the account, and the kids got onto it. And, there's a huge time difference, right? And they were calling me like at midnight their time, which was like 7 a.m. here, and I felt really bad for her, and we called the FBI, and because it's across state lines and everything. So they approached the guy, and he's just like some goof, low motor, and he's bilking people, and he's getting tons of money, and he'd been doing it to all these widows of these people, and but what she was getting out of it was a guy who she thought liked her, a guy who was going to come and meet her. And like you're saying, they're desperate for conversation. They're desperate for human contact. And these unscrupulous people thrive on that,
Yeah. But okay. So we started at Larry's taking us down to the base grassroots level of like veteran fraud and stuff. So, it's the same story. I go to Heinz and I keep walking by, and there's this one guy there, and very soft-spoken, won't make eye contact, and he always says under his breath, he says, "You got some change? You got some change?" And he doesn't aggressively panhandle. If you walk by, he doesn't chase you down. He doesn't raise his voice or anything. I says, I'm going to put this guy to the test, right? So I had some change in my car. It turned out to be about $8 a change. All right. I put it in a plastic bag. A lot of these guys get upset when you give them coins. They want dollars. They want paper currency. Coins are too hard to deal with, manage. I says, if this guy gets upset that I'm giving him a bag full of coins, then I know he's completely a fraud. I go up there. I give him the bag of coins. He looks at me like I saved his life. Honestly. So the guy was like, there was the guy, and I've seen him a couple times, haven't seen him recently, but you never know. You never know, but you can really spot the guys. That guy I wasn't sure of, he could just be a veteran on the edge or whatever, not enough to get a disability, not enough for anything else. It doesn't have a lot going in his life. But yeah, so now you see these other guys, they're more aggressive. They walk right in, go to the pharmacy where everyone's sitting around usually with their wives and everything. Hey, I'm a disabled veteran. You got any change you can help me with? Well, dude, you're in the VA. Go talk to the VSOs, the Veteran Service Officers. They'll direct you to one. Or go to if you're really desperate for money and you got to pay your rent and your kids are starving, then you go to the VAC, right? If you're legit. But this is just the target of opportunity for a lot of the frauds. Now, Paul, didn't they go to the Supreme Court with they call no, not honor the word.
Well, there were cases
theft, but
there were cases,
Veller theft.
Yeah. That there is a law that does not allow you to claim you're, a veteran or won awards that you didn't win.
Yeah, and the thing is, but it doesn't stop you from wearing the uniforms.
Correct.
I can wear the uniforms all I want, and as long as I'm not soliciting money to be a veteran, or I'm not, X in a box on a federal form that says I'm a veteran when I'm not, or applying for, veterans, veteran special consideration as a veteran. A lot of these guys walk around with that stuff. They're real easy to spot too, because none of them get the uniforms right, man.
Right.
They don't. There's things just easily messed up, like the name tags on the wrong side as in the U.S. Army, and I still have to look at a picture of myself to remember which side it all goes on. But I'm a little dyslexic with that, right? So I'm always looking at a picture to get my uniforms right. But there you get it. Okay, so let's say this is where I want people to know the difference. You have these big veteran organizations out there, the American Legion. And like we discussed, it's a 501c19. To be a 501c19, you need 95% combat veterans, war veterans, it said. Well, when they passed the Legion Act, and it just declared that anyone that's been in the service since 1941 has basically been a war veteran. So that opened up membership for almost everyone. Before then, you couldn't be a 501c19. So if you were a veteran, that hadn't been to war, that had been in clear part, you would have to join some 501c3 or other organization if you really wanted to participate with that stuff. So a lot of 501c3s came about with guys that were like, hey, the American Legion brings in this much money. The VFW brings in this much money. Well, if I made something and I says, and this is my favorite, this is a nasty one, right? Because you got the Disabled American Veterans, the DAV. Now, there's my sign, right? They're a 501c4, and the reason for that is they couldn't, before 2019, they couldn't be a 501c19 because they had a lot of disabled veterans, all right, and even the paralyzed veterans of America, right? Or American veterans. They had a lot of guys that have been injured in training that weren't war veterans, that were disabled, had disability and everything. But if they went with a 501c19, they couldn't let these guys join, right? So they're a 501c4, right? But then some organization, right? Some more organization will come out. Why did my pages get all turned? Disabled Veterans National Foundation, right? The Disabled Veterans National Foundation. And like, oh, that's a veterans organization. No, it's a 501c3. Some guy gave it a name, mimicked, right? Mimicked the Disabled American Veterans, which is a legit, right? And they go, the Disabled Veterans Foundation, National Foundation. And they get a lot of money in, they do a lot of fundraiser, but they spend less than 2% of that money on actual veterans or veterans organizations. So all the money you give them goes for, what do we know? The $500 cigars that they've justified because they're at a smoker and they're getting more people to donate to this fund, right? They're fundraising, and then they're writing off everything that they're doing as a fundraising event. So you really have to do some research. Just because it sounds like it's a legit organization, all right, it might not be. It might be a 501c3, or one of these guys is he's the president, right, or the chief financial officer, or they have a board of officers who are all paid to do whatever work, whatever fundraising. And when it comes down to it, if they got 2% left over, they might find a disabled veteran there and give him a walker. Here, we bought you a walker. There you go. Which they probably picked up at the secondhand store, But they get a big name. They do the big fundraising. They get celebrity. They got paid celebrity endorsements. They got television commercials. They got all that big, coffee cups, mugs, all this stuff. Buy all this stuff and everything. And when it comes down to it, the guys that need the help aren't getting it. Meanwhile, all the people that could be funding the Disabled American Veterans are given to this goof because he's out there lobbying them. And the Disabled American Veterans, they're not doing the same lobbying, but this guy's mimicking them, and people don't see that mimic. You get what I mean, Paul?
I do.
Yeah. So what? That's it. Just seems like the fraud is rampant. The fraud is absolutely rampant, and it's like these guys, they're not going to prison because they're right on the edge. They're doing what's allowed by law. And what is it? Be careful what you wish for. Not even that. Be careful what you wish for. The people that are given the money, they're not being defrauded outright in the way that illegal fraud would be, right?
No good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah. So someone that's given to the disabled I hate to give them, any time, but the Disabled Foundation, Disabled Veterans National Foundation, the Disabled Veterans National Foundation, all right? And they think they're given to the DAV. Well, that's on them, really, because, you know, they're not hiding the fact that they're not the DAV. They just kind of sound a little like it. And they're going to go, we help disabled veterans, all right? And that's what the DAV does, but that's an association of disabled veterans looking out for they're a 5, like I said, C4, because back in the day, they couldn't be a C19. You know, but they're looking out for the rights, the benefits, and the well-caring of disabled American veterans. So if you wanted to help a disabled American veteran, go give to the Disabled American Veterans. Don't give to the Disabled Veterans National Foundation. No matter how, you know, the guy's out there doing it. You know, and then anyone that shills for an organization that only puts 2% of the money, the fundraising that they're doing towards the cause, right? They should be ashamed of themselves. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more.
I know, we got 3 minutes.
Oh, well,
sorry.
The internet fraud. All right, so anything involving Amazon gift cards, all right? 99.9% chance it's a total fraud. Anything you see on YouTube, or not YouTube, Facebook Marketplace for charitable organizations like that, anything Facebook Marketplace, I'd say that's a 95% fraud possibility. Anything that they're asking you to pay strictly in crypto, 99.9% fraud capability, right? What are the other ones that they trade with? You know, any gift card.
There was a special card with a green dot, you know, where you'd go and then you'd give the numbers, or you'd get the card, or you'd wire money to a Western Union location, and then they give the card to the people. You know, like wiring Western Union money for a gift card or something like that.
Yeah, prepaid credit cards, usually prepaid visit cards. Now, a lot of people get paid. They do focus groups. Or one of the good ones is they do the, you know, again, preying on people that are really desperate, right? They're selling their plasma. So you can't sell your blood, but you can sell your plasma. So they pay them, and they pay them on prepaid debit cards. You know, so there's no cash exchanging hands there. But they can go and cash that out. But it's like untraceable stuff now. You know, so when it becomes untraceable or difficult to trace, just think about it. Just think about it to yourself. How hard would it be if this isn't legit to spot a scam? If it's not legit, how hard is it going to be to get my money back? If it's really hard, it's a scam. Comrades, this is Chief Guard of the Republic Radio Show, Veteran Shoutout Show, with your co-hosts Mike Tuman and Paul Burvitt, every Saturday, noon until 2 on WRMN 1410 AM, which you all know because you're here. You're either here on the radio, the AM, or you're streaming on WRMN1410.com, or you're on the WRMN 1410 YouTube channel, which is awesome. And Paul, so...
Yeah.
When you're looking at, let's say you get a phone call from someone, what are some of the red flags that you should have to know if this is a fraud?
Well, the first thing I already know, because this was my field, that person is getting paid for making that phone call. They're usually not groups of police or veterans or something like that. They're what they call a paid fundraiser. And we kind of talked about this last week. You know, there's some paid fundraisers that'll take 70, 80, 90% of the money. So you're really paying for that phone caller, all right? And then, I mean, you could ask them questions. The first thing you should do is, do you work for the organization or do you work for the fundraiser? Okay. And if they tell you they work for the fundraiser, then you should immediately say, no, I make my donations directly to the office of the group. And they'll say, well, we'll make it easier for you, and then we'll be able to give you stickers and everything. And that's usually a non-starter. Now, a lot of, particularly with police groups, they like to have a sticker on their car because they think that the police will not give you a ticket if it has like, FOP auxiliary number 452 or something like that, or the police benevolent or auxiliary, or name any kind of group. Okay. So people will do it just to get the sticker to put it on their car or their business. And for them, 15, 20, $25 is worth it. Okay. But the question you should always have is how much goes to your program services? Are you a professional fundraiser? Are you paid? Where can I look at the report of the organization? And where is their office? And what program services do they do? Normally, I tell people, if you're really inclined to give to something, do research on the group, like we kind of did last week on different groups, and then find out where their headquarters is and make a donation directly. Because if you, that's the only way you know that virtually all of your money will go to the organization and its staff to do its purpose. Anything else is it's going to the fundraiser. Now, very often, and this happens very often. Okay, I get these cold calls now. They're for police or they're for fire and things like that. And what I do is I just tell them, instead of engaging them in conversation, I said, I don't know why you're calling me. I said, I live in Toronto. This is a business. I do have an American phone number, and that's what you called, but I don't have anything to do with your country. And then they'll hang up automatically because they don't want to get involved in that. So, and that's another thing, you can pull that on them. And like you said, if they're mad, you give them change, or if they hang up right away, just let it go. And the worst thing you could do would be to call them back, because then they record your number, and then they among themselves in the scammer world sell numbers that are, what they consider to
actual
be
numbers.
Right. Yeah.
So they're not calling their own scammer numbers.
Right. So they'll get paid to palm off a potentially bad number to another group, but they still get value out of your number. So just give them some line, but always ask them, are they the group themselves? Are they a fundraiser? Where's the headquarters? Who's in charge, and how much they're getting paid, and what goes to program services.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm expecting a phone call from a number I don't know, right? And so right. I can't block all those numbers, right? So I'll answer the phone, and here's the thing. If you hear a bloop, just that bloop, that's a computer transferring you. Hang up. If you have to say hello more than twice, it's dead air, disconnect, hang up. Right? The other thing, I get all the call. At one time, I needed an equity loan. I had a little issues because I co-signed for someone who just decided not to pay their student loan back. Right? And I had a few issues with that. So when I went to get the equity loan, they said, no, your credit's not good enough. Right? Suddenly, my credit goes up. Right? And I'm getting all these calls, refinancing and everything. I says, oh, okay. Then these are paid people that they don't actually work for the company, right? They're just trying to bait you into hook you up with a mortgage broker, right? I says, unless you get me 2.25% where you eat all of the closing costs, not rolled into the loan, 2.25%, you eat all the closing costs. The loaner eats all those closing costs, right? I'll borrow the money, the equity I got now, but zero closing costs, zero rolled in, 2.25%. And they go, well, I don't know, click. I said, wait, why are you wasting my time? And sometimes they get upset. They get really upset because they're like, they never engaged with someone that demanded right off the bat what they wanted. I don't need the equity loan now. I don't need the loans now or anything. But now now that I don't need it, everyone wants to give me the money. It's like from the movie Gettysburg, right? When one old Southern gentleman saying, it's like the bank. They only want you to loan you money when you don't need it. When you're desperate for it, they're like, no, you're not a good risk right now. But so you got that one, the phone, you got the dead air, right? And people might say, hey, it's a bad connection or whatever, but it's not. It's the computer transferring to this big board of people that just sit there with a headphone on. Maybe they're vacuuming their house, maybe they're, watching the kids or something, but all of a sudden they get a hookup into the thing, and now it takes them a second to talk to you. The other thing, the bloop, the little bloop, you'll hear the little bloop, that's a computer transfer. Hang up. That is the basic, you get the basic knowledge. Then there's my girlfriend's boyfriend, who's always calling her. First name scam, last name likely. Yeah. And the other one, right? She had another one out there. First name spam, last name risk. All right. So if you see those two characters come up, just don't even take the calls, because it's going to be like that. But again, you got people that don't know how to block the numbers. Way back in the day, I bought an iPhone for my mother. I put her on my plan. I'm paying for her cell phone. And my brothers and sisters got mad at me because they said, oh, she won't be able to figure it out. She'll always be asking us for help. I says, no. First of all, my youngest daughter gets along with my mother famously, right? And my mother's open to taking advice from my youngest daughter. But she has a bunch of friends that also have iPhones. I'm talking about my mother. So she'll ask them for help too, right? And she's pretty much mastered the iPhone now, right? But they haven't mastered blocking, call waiting, sending immediately to voicemail, all this other stuff. So they're still picking up the phone, not knowing whose number it is. And it's a memory thing. Oh, that's a 312 number. Oh, I got a friend that was real close to that number. You don't remember their whole number, because who does anymore? Who does? I remember my old phone number at home. That's in my memory forever. When I grew up, that phone number's still there. Right? I remember my mother's house phone, which she still has, but I remember it. That memory's still there. But everything else, I don't even remember my girlfriend's phone number. I got to go and look it up on contacts. You know what I mean, Paul? So something comes up close, and you're like, okay, I'm going to answer it. But nope.
It could be, it could be.
Could be. What is this? You know what it took me forever to do? Or it took the government forever to do? When I was working at the Pentagon, right there, I had to be on the call list, and I had 3 phones that I had to carry. My own personal phone, and then 2 government phones. One encrypted Crackberry, right? And another phone. And any warning that came out for DC, for the Pentagon, like, oh, there's a quarter inch of snow on the ground, work's canceled. All 3 phones would light up with them telling me not going to work because work's canceled. When I worked for the FBI, my phone would light up. After I quit, I'm still getting calls from them. Oh, the FBI office is going to open up late today due to weather. I'm like, I don't care. But you see those DC numbers come up, and you're like, oh, this is from the government, this kind. So that's the good first way to stop the telephone things, right? Is that dead air and spam risk likely, and those are put out by the phone companies. They're the ones that list those numbers. So when you complain about those numbers or you report them, then if the phone company gets enough complaints on that, then they give it its automatic ID of spam likely or spam, risk or whatever. So the next thing that people get really Now, the older generation has learned how to use emails, right? Emails are great because, it's like instant. And you don't have to go out to the mailbox. And it's pretty cool because your friend will send you an email and you don't have to wait for the postage and the letter and everything. And then you get the letter back from your friend like 2 weeks later, and then you send them another letter. You're right on email now. It's right instantly, instantly. So now these guys, they get the email addresses and, okay, so I want to get his personal identification, right? His PII. Now, we took a lot of classes in this for anyone that had to handle any of this, especially personnel clerks in the military, right? You had to go through all these classes on this stuff. Personal identification information, your social security number, your birth date, your relatives, your first, last, middle name, all this stuff is PII. And it should be protected. All these companies should be protecting it if you give it to them. Now, what they want to do is they want to get that PII off of you so they can use it to open up a bank account, to access your bank account, to get a loan, to get a credit card, basically in your name. So they'll send something like from ComEd, right? Your electric bill. It looks like it's from the electric company. It's ComEd. It's everything. It looks exactly like it because anyone could go and fake it. It's easier to crypto fake than it is to, make fake money, right? So they fake the web page. They fake the email pages. They fake the logos and everything. And they're asking you, oh, you need to reset your password for your account. So you send them all this information, right? You're sending them your password, you're sending them this, you're sending them that. And now they go into your account, they pull down all your PII information that you didn't give them because now they got your password, and now they use that for something else. So these are usually easy to spot because check the email address that was sent to, all right? So it might say, bill, accounts receivable dot, right? ComEd ridiculous 7 dot co or dot ru or dot something like that, right? It's not ComEd's exact, their official why am I forgetting so many words? Domain name. It's not their official domain name, but it's close enough, and then they add a couple letters in there, or they miss one letter. Instead of ComEd, it's ConEd, or it's ComOd. Well, that would be
appropriate if it was ConEd and they were pulling a scam.
Yeah, well,
I'd give them some points for that one.
So first thing to check is the email address that sent it to you, all right? And it'll be probably Gmail or something free, something absolutely free. They'll put it in there. Absolutely free, because these are disposable accounts. Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo, all disposable accounts. You make up a name, make up a thing, put it in there, make up this, make up that, bam. Use it a couple times, get your $500, do it again. Right? Or get the PII information that you can sell. The next thing, like I said, is look for misspelled words. ComEd has what do you call not underwriters, proofreaders, but copywriters, right? They have people that write this out, all right? So everything's correct. The secretary checks it out. All the words are properly spelled. Everything's formatted correct. The grammar's correct because they're a big company. And if they had a bunch of fat fingers, like are in my novels, you'll find a lot of fat fingers in my novels, like this Alabama Triad. But I go snowblind, proofreading all my own stuff, right? So if you find some obvious errors in grammar, obvious errors in spelling, it's a scam. It's a scam. The polar opposite of that is we're talking about old, lonely people, and you're looking for the softest target, the easiest target, right? So a lot of these scam emails will be intentionally, obviously scams. To you, to someone with critical thinking, it's obviously a scam. For someone without critical thinking that wants to think the best of it, oh, I did win this money. Oh, ComEd's going to give me a rebate on my electric bill. or something. They see that, right? And they want to believe it. So when they reply to this email or they call the number that's listed, they already know they hooked one. Now they just got to set the hook. They're not wasting their time. Now, if they're calling someone like me and I'm bored, I ain't got nothing to do that day, which is kind of rare, but I'm just bored or lazy and I just want to sit around. And I get one of these calls and I will drag them on forever. I will waste their time because I ain't got nothing to do, because I don't intend to give them any information. I don't intend to sign anything or anything else. I'll respond with emails back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Like, there you go. And they get nothing out of you, but they waste their time. So they want it to be so obvious it's a fraud that people with critical thinking will not click on it, will not open it, will not do anything about that. Only the people that are most likely to scam out of the money so they don't waste their time. Because their time seems to be precious also. It's hard work scamming people. So there's another thing to look out for in these emails and stuff. Like I was saying about the veterans organizations. They sound really nice, like they're really a veterans organization, right? That they're really going to help veterans. But they have almost nothing to do with veterans, all right? Except the name. They mimic the name, and then they go out fundraising, and people hear that nice name, right? They hear the nice name, and they're giving this guy money. They're giving him money. They're giving him money, right? But he's legit. He's got an EIN number, an employee identification number, because he'd be kind of dumb to do it under his own social, right? And he's registered as a 501c3. And he says, well, this is the foundation for putting up a memorial to all the anti-mine kittens. You ever see that meme?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's one of the first things I saw over there, and this was in Bosnia, and it was anti-mine kitten, because they're cute, right? They're cute, they're cheap, they're disposable. And it shows this little kitten jumping on a landmine, right? Not blown up, but jumping on a landmine. So let's say I start up a foundation for setting up a memorial to them, a statue and everything. And I want to fund the statue. And I go out there, 501c3, and the purpose of this is to have a memorial to all the anti-mine kittens, right? And it's great. People might actually believe. They might actually believe that that was a legit thing. They might believe that that's a legit thing, right? So they're giving me money, and I've got a plan written up. I've got a drawing written up. I've got money. I got, expenses like this much in granite, this much to deliver the place, this much to buy the land, or I'm going to get them to donate the land on whatever, to put it this on this corner. We're going to put this up, and then I'm going to want a trust fund in perpetuity to take care of this. So some guy comes with a toothbrush and cleans it off, cleans the things off. I could set that up. I could be 100% legit. I am the officer of this corporation, right? And I said, well, I'm the one out there fundraising. This is a 724 job. I think I should get $100 an hour since I'm doing it 18 hours a day, averaging, I should get $1,800 a day. So as long as I'm collecting that money, I'm paying myself a salary. But I make sure that I put a little money to the side until I got enough for this kitten thing. So it's just funding me and my friends, but it's a good thing. I could set up a web page. That's cheap. People think because you got a web page, they spent a lot of money on this web page. It's really great. No, the people that are making the money are the designers on that thing, because that's easy enough. But you get what I mean, right? If I call it something nice. Now, if I call it the American Legion, and in small letters, of mine-seeking cats, right? And it's a 501c3, but the first letters are American Legion, right? And I advertise it as ALMC, MSC, right? ALMSC. MSC, who knows what that means, but this is the American Legion, right? American Legion, MSC, little letters, right? In parentheses down at the bottom of the page, disclaimer, means mine-seeking cats. Now I'm mimicking the American Legion, and people think they're given to something organized with the American Legion. But if I followed the copyright laws, right, and everything closely enough and keep on the edge, they ain't got nothing against me. And now what they have to do, right, American Legion's going to have to spend money to say, we are not associated with the mind-seeking cats. Get what I mean, Paul?
I do.
Yeah, so it ticks me off because not that one veterans organization is better than another, not that all 501c3s are bad. The USO is a 501c3. All right? But they do great things. They actually provide services for service members. They actually spend the money well, right? The DAV, 501c4. They're actually good. Everything else. But you got to see these other organizations, if you see them advertised on TV big and they got a celebrity paid, it'll say right on there, paid endorsement. Paid endorsement. And you should be very suspicious of that. Because if it was a legit organization and that celebrity was pro-veteran, guess what? What do you think he'd do, Paul?
He'd be upset.
No, he'd do it for free. He would do it for free, and then he would write off his time as a tax deduction. Hey, I donated my time and my effort, and this is what it's normally worth at a concert and everything. So I donated those services to the American Legion. All right, they're a 501c19. Consider that what do they call it? A donation in kind?
In kind, yes.
Yeah, donation in kind. But they don't. They're taking money.
That's what I mean. I mean, it's you know, we used to get this all the time, you know, and I don't want to really belabor the point, but there was kind of a very popular football player in Chicago who used to give turkeys and hams at holidays. Okay. And he got involved with a woman who had a prominent family. And anyway, they were fundraising, but it was for her. It was for her. She was using charitable names and stealing the money, and the guy was getting paid for going to appearances.
Yeah,
you know,
it's all a
if
scam.
Getting paid at the charity, that's not okay.
Yep. Like I'm not saying all charitable workers there that are getting paid.
I'm talking about the celebrities that do for the autographs.
All right. And that's, comrades, this is Chief Guard of the Republic radio show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt every Saturday, noon until 2 on WRMN 1410 AM. You can catch us live streaming WRMN1410.com or the WRMN 1410's YouTube live channel. We're right there now. And Paul, one of the things here is, I want to call out for people to call in, all right? 847-931-1410 or text in at 505-926-1410, or you could even hit us up in the comments on the YouTube live channel. Listen, here's one of the tricks to one of the key things about fraud and being taken and being a pigeon on this stuff is that, Paul, if it's not reported, is it a crime?
That's not true. It's still a crime. It's just not reported.
Yeah, but if you commit a crime and no one reports it, and it has a statute of limitations, can they arrest you after the statute of limitations and charge you?
No.
No. So one of the things about this is when you get taken, right? The confidence game, right? Conmen, you get taken. They like to target one thing, greed, people's greed. That's like a confidence man, right? He'll target your greed. So you're doing something that you think that is actually on the edge, all right? It's fishy, it's suspicious, it's sketchy, right? And you're looking at making a profit off of it. And then you find out that you were the guy that got profited on, right? It was sketchy and everything, but you're so embarrassed because you fell for such a simple thing, right? Now in hindsight, it looks all simple that to you it becomes worth it to take that loss rather than to admit to the massive failure on your critical thinking skills, right?
Well, this is a universal, okay? when you're talking about like confidence men and things like that, it's a universal that in every one of them, you as the mark, the pigeon, the sucker, the chump, or whatever, you are not going in it with a benevolent heart. You might think you're getting something over somebody, or you're going to make more money, or you're going to be the first of the deal, and you're going to be the top of the pyramid or anything. So you yourself are, and that is a lot of times a reason people don't come forward, because they themselves, like they were told, we're not going to report this. You won't have to pay taxes on it. And, so you're doing something nefarious yourself. And once they've got that or planted that seed in you, then it's not too far for them to shift you. Like very often, hundreds, I can't tell you how many, even a Catholic church that I had a victim where they were, told, if you invest in me, you invest in us, I'll rebate my commission to you. And, but there's never paperwork. He's just making oral statements. And then it turns out he's buying Bulls playoff tickets. He's taking 10 different women at 10 different parties. And the church's money was gone, or the individual, it's always, Bulls tickets, box seats at the games, concert tickets. And then, I had a group of people that were Hispanic, and the hook to them was it was advertised on a Hispanic radio station. And, the Anglos won't invest for us. We'll invest on our own, and we'll take control of our stuff. And I can't tell you how many people I sat across. And, the guy says, when we finally arrested him and put him in jail, when can I see him? And I go, why? He goes, I will go and kill him. How can I go to my daughter and tell her that I lost $1 million and I have no fund for her to go to college or for us to buy a house? It's because they're getting something back. They don't have to report it. They're getting more than what's normal interest. That, and I've seen churches get involved in this, individuals get involved in this, other lawyers get involved in this. And it's always, you got to think, is this what everybody else is getting? Because if it isn't, then there's something wrong with it.
Yeah. So now the reverse thing, all right, so there's one thing, like I said, with the con men, where, it's sketchy. The other thing is these guys, especially with the older people and the veterans now, they're playing on the heartstrings, boing, boing, boing. Oh, the poor veterans this, the poor veterans that. Don't you want, look at these guys, they fought for us. What are you going to do for them? Give till your heart's content, right? And they play on these purse strings.
That's different, because that's just a flat out scheme. Yeah. Okay. The other ones where you're getting something out of it, or getting, and on those, they use the money from the last in to give you some money back, but then they
the Ponzi scheme. The Ponzi scheme.
Right. Well, it's last in, first out. But with the charity, that's truly a scam, because you are you want to give. You generally want to give. You want to lessen what charity is, lessening the burdens of society. Elin Masalinari, okay? And that means that what you're doing is somehow relieving a burden or benefiting someone who needs it. And they're using that vehicle as the draw for you to donate. So it's a fraud in the inducement.
Yes. Yeah, and they use all the beautiful words and everything. The only way, one, to stop it is to publicize it, right? To publicize it. What is it? Soylent Green is people, right? Right. All those things. Everyone wanted Soylent Green. Everyone wanted Soylent Green. And here's the spoiler. Soylent Green is people. All right. So these guys work in the not in the darkness, but in the fog, all right? They create the fog to make you think that there's someone that they're really not, that the benefits are something that's really going to happen. It's all nice words and everything. And then they take all the money, and even like the Ponzi scheme guys, almost just like them, right? They spend it all on themselves. They make themselves look all big and important and everything. And look, the top veterans organization, the top veterans charitable organization CEO, and we're interviewing them here today. And how much money have you collected? You know, we collected. You know, people really want to give to the veterans. We've collected like $2 million this quarter alone. And then they go, well, how much of that actually got down to the programs? Well, you know, we had a lot of expenses. It takes money to make money. Well, do those expenses include that, that Cadillac Escalade you're driving around in, that $4,000 suit you're wearing with the $2,000 shoes, your $20,000 Rolex, right? Because these guys weren't captains of business beforehand. They didn't start out rich beforehand. Well, I got to hobnob with people, and I got to dress the way they do because they're the big donors that give us the money. You get where I'm going with that? I do. It's a cult of personality with them, and you can see it all over. There's mega religious churches, right, that do the same thing where you got a cult of personality in the guy, right? And he's constantly fundraising. And when he fundraises, boom, there he is, right? And Jesus loves me because I'm rich. You know, I'm rich because Jesus loves me, which is the last thing Jesus would have said, right?
Well, or you got your Reverend I type sitting in one of his church's 13 Rolls Royces, and some kid comes up to him and says, well, why are you sitting in one of your Rolls Royces? Well, shouldn't the man who's helping the Lord have the best? Shouldn't he have the Rolls Royce? Shouldn't he have this? You know, and you know, there's
that's not what St. Francis said.
But they're not St. Francis. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a call on the line.
I'd rather donate to St. Francis's church than the Rolls Royce church. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Talking big there, huh?
Yeah. Who we got on the line? I think it's Cleveland Dennis, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's correct. I just have to compliment that it seems every week you guys are topical with me because I got a quick story about the mimicking of wire transfer information where a customer of mine, he was going to send a wire. It was over the holiday weekend from Good Friday through Easter Monday because Europe's closed and we were slow, but he said he sent it, and I go, hey, send me a copy of what you sent because it's not showing up. And I looked at it, and instead of my name and my entry writer's name with the name of our company, it showed at Gmail. I go, wait a minute. But yet they had copied our information with our logo and everything for the wire, and they flashed it somehow within about a 15-minute span. My customer quickly looked at it, gave it to his bank in Northwest Indiana, some farmer's bank. They didn't pay attention. For 20 years, he's been sending us wires. They go to Long Island, New York. In this case, we ended up, because I checked it all with my partner at AI, ended up at some bank in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yeah. No kidding. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I know. Immediately, I had all these other thoughts. Now, had to do an FBI report, and the FBI guy told my customer that, hey, it might be your custom broker there, you know. And I didn't make no comment. He's a customer. I'm not going to aggravate him. He's already in pain because he didn't pay us. We're not getting paid, and it was a total of over $30,000.
Yeah.
Well, I tried to alert my people in New York, but nobody did anything or said anything. Suddenly on Thursday that week, it was Tuesday after Easter Monday, And on Thursday night, the accounting lady calls me and she says, "Oh, can you give me a copy of that form?" I said, "Well, I already sent it to, my entry writer there with you. I sent it to him, and I guess they were asleep at the wheel. They got burned for $70K." And
wow.
yeah, I was told, like a week later, this past week, that the bank that did the erroneous wire, they agreed to reimburse the money. I said, when? Well, they didn't. They're not clear on that. I said, well, you know what? In the meantime, it's unpaid, and we've indicated to customs what happened, but they don't care. So the bonding company's going to be chasing somebody, and they're worse than who in collecting money. These bonding companies. Anyhow, I just want to say, what you're explaining today is just so, again, topical with me, but at the same time, it's very prevalent because,
yes,
we get paid by wires for years, and all of a sudden, somehow, the scammers got into the emails and perpetrated the fraud.
It's pretty simple. They get an email address, they send an email address, and they send the email that mimics what you have, right? So they look at your webpage and everything, they see that, they mimic it. This guy isn't using super due diligence, but there's a button that he clicks to make that transfer. Instead of going to the regular transfer, it fills in all their information. So he might type stuff in, but they got, he's filling up in his transfer. Anyways, I'm not really. Yeah, that's one of the scams. You really got to look out for it. One of my veterans groups wanted to use Venmo to take payments, and I'm like, I Googled it real quick, and it says only use Venmo with someone you absolutely trust. I said, so we're not going to do that because I don't. Right. It goes both ways, right? So if I'm taking payments with Venmo, and these people are people that I meet once every other year. I'm not sure, right? I'm not going to risk our funds on that. So that's a straight out. But then I think I'm being due diligent, but I'm getting pressure. I'm getting pressure from people that want to do that. And I'm like, no, it's bad. Right. But then you get into pressure. And then if it goes bad, who are they going to blame? Themselves? Right. Well, I shouldn't. Well, you're the treasurer. You should have known better. I'm a little ranting. One of these other things, right, that the veterans are getting scammed on, and it goes around, it's the same basis, right? And it used to be Servicemen's Group Life Insurance, right? SGLI, $400,000 of term life insurance. Term. Every guy is covered. You could take $50,000 increments up to $400,000, right? You could take that, and you have to actually physically sign to opt out. You have to opt out, and it requires a commander to opt you out of that from it getting deducted from your military pay. Now, this is term that also included if you're in the reserves, you're getting this term life insurance. So if I'm just wake up on any given Wednesday, trip on my pavement, and kill myself somehow, right? Accidental die, it still pays off. It's not just when I'm in the military. It was term life insurance. It was a good deal, right? And when you go overseas and get killed, that SGLI pays off, right? It's not enough, but it still pays off a considerable amount. So guys that were in the service for 3 years, 2 years, even when you got drafted, you got the SGLI, but it went up over the years, right? Guys that spent some considerable time in were getting these emails and stuff saying, hey, there's an SGLI rebate. Were you in the military for so long? Well, apply and you get a rebate from your payments. So if you were in for 10 years and you paid every month for this term life insurance, and it was like $16 to $16 a month, right, that you're paying for his term life insurance, and you add up that you were in there for 10 years, that's 120 months, and maybe they're going to rebate that money back to yours, half that money back. That's a considerable fund. So they get the email, it directs them to a site, or it asks them for this information to email to them, and they're fishing for your PII information, right? So you think this is legit. They make it look legit. They go from Department of Veteran Affairs, right? Department of Veteran Affairs doesn't cover SGLI, right? It doesn't cover any of that. That's a separate underwriter for the military. That's an underwriter, and that's military, not veterans. But people, even these veteran guys, they see that they give up their PII information freely. That's called phishing, right? Now the next one that's coming out there is like, did you get the GWAT, Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal? All right, Global War on Terrorism Medal, Campaign Medal, whatever. If you got the GWAT, you might be entitled to $200. Okay, so someone's sending out that email. You're going to give them your PII information, hoping to get $200, where there's nothing. Google it. It doesn't exist. I looked at it once. I'm like, nope. But people get this, and then they're passing around. This is difficult to think, right? Because you got veterans that see this, and we got a couple guys that they want to think the best. Oh, they're looking for the best thing for veterans. And then they're sending it to all the veterans in their contact list freely of their own accord, right? Yeah. It's not like it's being capped there, and then it's not like someone hacks my email, gets my contact lists, and then sends it out. These guys are sending it out freely, repeating what's a lie, but they're giving it credibility. They don't even know it.
Legitimacy, yeah.
Yeah, they're giving legitimacy and credibility. You got to really be critical thinking about this stuff, right?
Tricky, yeah.
GWAT, okay. And here's the thing. A lot of guys have got that recently, right? Because they've already defunct over and over and over the SGLI scam. So this is the same scam using a GWAT medal. Global War on Terrorism. If you deployed overseas, you probably got it. And they send out this email saying, oh, you might be entitled to $100. So who wouldn't want a free $100, right?
Read.
So it could cost you a lot more in the future.
Yeah.
A lot more problems.
Well, it's a constant, when you work off the internet, like so many of us do, a constant barrage of attacks.
Yes.
My call is not just to tell you about that, but tell you how much I enjoy the show every week. I tell people about it, and that's about all I got today.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thanks, Dennis.
So, now that's really, one of our guys sent out that email. I'm like, oh, man, come on. Wake up. Oh, you don't, yeah. Not everything is a scam out there. Not everything is a scam. But it gets to the point where it's even worse with the scammers, because if there's legit stuff out there that's available, right? But people aren't spending money to make it look like to get it out there for these veterans and everything. It's just a program that's available. But these scammers have made it so bad that you think everything's a scam, and then you don't even go for that because you think it's just a scam and another waste of your time. How do you separate? You shake up a bag of salt and sugar. How do you separate it now? Yeah, it's pretty hard. They're both white crystals. And if you taste that, well, that's one crystal at a time, right? You got to taste one crystal at a time. I'm going to take out one crystal. You got to taste it. That destroys the crystal. Oh, that one was salt. Check mark. That was salt. Okay, put it there. Oh, this one. Oh, that one's sugar. Let's put it there. Or let's say you put a teaspoon of salt into 5 pounds of sugar. The 5 pounds of sugar being the scams, right? And the teaspoon of salt being the legit things. How do you find it? They just, and they,
it's exasperating.
It's exasperating because these guys should be ashamed of themselves, but they're not. And why aren't they, Paul? Because they're sociopaths.
They're diabolical.
They're narcissistic sociopaths.
You got that right.
All right. So and it cults of personality, right? If I'm personable, I see. If I'm I'm not very personable, you know. But if I was, you know, and I dressed well, and I looked the part, I look good and everything, I could probably get a lot of people to donate a lot of money if I used the nice, sweet words, and I didn't tell them exactly what the money's going for. Who would give me money? Hey, listen, and there's another thing. Influencers, right? Influencers. What do they do? Nothing. How are they funded? People basically give them money. You know, it's like, hey, I make a living by begging for money for people, but I'm not on a street corner. I'm doing it over the internet. All right, we'll be back for the last quarter of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show, 1410 a.m. Comrades, we're back for the Chief Guard of the Republic Veterans Radio Shoutout Show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burwood every Saturday, noon until 2 here on 1410 a.m. Hey, Paul, the next thing, we talk a lot about AI on this show, right?
Right.
And this is one of the things I saw that kind of scares me a bit, but it seems a little bit of AI is supposed to reduce the labor, but it seems a little labor intensive to me now, unless you got real good programs to do it, right? So if I have a lot of web presence with videos, like right now, there's a lot of web presence of me because I have this radio show and then we're uploaded, we're out there, so they could sample my voice. They could do a radio sample of my voice, and then they could AI my voice. I could probably AI my whole show. It would be my voice, a computer-generated voice that sounded just like me. So now you have computer-generated phone calls with the computer-generated voice of a loved one, and you target someone with it. You might even do the deep fake, you know, where you see it's. I find it a little easy to spot these AI personalities out there. One of them was the what's her name? The British AI girl. She's very pro. You remember her name?
Oh, I don't know.
She's in a lot of videos, and they're very pro-British, anti-immigration into Britain, right? They're very pro-indigenous British peoples. But she's AI. She's just AI. So she looks like a girl. She got like blue hair and everything. She looks 3D, like she's a real person, right? On the videos, she sounds like a real person. You know, she does have a goof up on a few words. You know, sometimes they don't know how the difference between lead and lead because they're spelled the same. They're spelled the same.
Where is this from again?
Oh, Great Britain, British. I can't think of her name. Agatha, Angela, Arga.
It's a commercial.
No, it's videos that go out there. She's a content creator, but she's an AI content creator. She's a person. She's an AI person. If they could do that, you know, it's hard to spot. Like they're saying, you know, deep fakes. They could do deep fakes with President Trump. So they sample them. They make an AI version of them. Amelia. I should have known that. Amelia. That's Yeah, Amelia. That's an AI person. That's not a real person. So how do you sue a real person? You can't. How do you put, that's where they're getting away with it. They're like, oh, we didn't say that. Amelia said that. Amelia's a fake person. That's pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
No, it's kind of realistic looking, but, you know, in a way, it's kind of a cartoon. They should pockmark her a little bit. No one's got skin that perfect. You know? A zit here or there, some mole on the tip of her nose or something. Something more human looking, right? Some flaw in there. You know? How do you find look for flawlessness? It's not, you know.
You know what I find revolting on all this stuff, you know, it's kind of shocking. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff that's been coming up recently. Like they'll take people that were in shows, okay, and they'll show the people in the shows and the people today, okay, and like a lot of times, they're already dead.
Where are they now? Yeah, what do they look like now?
So the dead guy or woman will show up with either angel wings or a halo, and then they're all doing selfies and they're leaning in, and it's kind of disingenuous because it's I think it's disrespectful to the family and the estate of the dead person, but it's also disingenuous because it makes it look like they're still in reality, and they're not. And then there's another group out there. I watch them sometimes. There's a woman. She could be AI generated for all I know. She's always bending over and she's talking to cats. Okay, and it's always New York cats. Okay, and then there's always some scam going around. Like the cats are getting picked up by little old grannies or something like that, or the cats are fighting the dogs, and they've been, and they're all, they're ethnic cats. There's a Rastafarian cat, and then there's a gangster cat, and then there's a rich, kind of like the woman from Gilligan's Island cat,
Mrs. Howell cat.
Yeah. There's so it's this, and there's always a conversation, and then some of the cats got thrown in the federal pen, and the cats got the eagles to help them lift them out and shit like that. But I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's not good. I mean, it's funny, it's animated, but it's not good.
Well, it's the all right. So this all started. Well, it didn't start way back. The oldest VR thing or AI VR thing that got national attention is when Christopher Reeves, with the broken back and totally paralyzed, walked out onto stage during a Super Bowl commercial. Remember when they did that?
Yeah.
So he's totally paralyzed, and suddenly he's walking out on stage, and they all they did was take a body and superimpose his face on it. But it looked exactly like him because it was like they diligently cut out photos of negatives of him, put it on film or whatever, and it looked like he was cured. People lost their minds. They're like, oh my God, they've cured people that have been totally paralyzed. They did it for Christopher Reeve. Oh, my loved one, he's paralyzed too. When can they fix him? But it never happened. It was virtual reality. It was AI at its, not AI, because these were guys manipulating frame by frame video, frame by frame. Your eye can only make 15 frames per second. All right. Even the movies are at 30 frames per second. The super high def movies, they say, are 75 frames per second, but your brain and eye only make out 15 frames per second, right? So imagine, for every second that Christopher Reeves was supposedly on the stage, some poor guy had to go in 30 frames of this video and put that face where it's supposed to be. That's labor intensive. That wasn't AI. That was a guy sitting at a computer, clicking on pixels and moving them. And then, okay, take a still shot and then make the flip book at 30 frames per second. So everyone, like you said, yeah, it is a problem because you see this and you're like, oh, why can't I do that? Okay, so let's, I'm going to advertise because I'm going to be a coach for girls gymnastics, right? So on my webpage and on my commercials, I'm going to show some girl that I coached, AI girl, doing quadruple backflips that are physically impossible for human beings to do. But your daughter can do this, right? Never going to happen, right? But I'm giving people like the Barbie doll. What's the big complaint of women in a Barbie doll is that it gives little girls an unrealistic image of what a perfect woman should look like, right? And they're always screaming about the Barbie dolls, that Barbie dolls are terrible because of that. Come on. If your daughter thinks that a real woman looks like that, then you should sit her down and straighten her out before she gets old enough to vote. You know, you should separate doll reality from human reality. A lot of people can't do that. They cannot separate those realities. So they think everything out there is legit. You know? And if they could see it, on the TV, the computer, the film or video out there and a poster or something, they think it's legit, because why would they put it out there if it was a lie? Wouldn't they be liable for that? What?
They would never do that. They would never do that.
They would never do that.
Yeah. Where are you getting that from? It happens every day, but they would never do that,
Yeah. So educate people. Educate yourself. Be a critical thinker. I try to be a critical. And I started this off, and what I want to say is, unfortunately, I would like people to call in. You could be anonymous and say, listen, I got taken on this scam. You don't have to tell me. It's embarrassing. But the best revenge on these scammers, right?
Is to publish it.
Publish them. Make it obvious. Hey, that's an obvious scam. It's like the magicians. All right, magicians provide entertainment, right? They provide entertainment. Sleight of hand, right? They got their special ways. They don't give up their secrets, right? So if you're a heckler at a magician show and you go in there, right, and you're telling everyone, no, look over there, that's where it's at, everything else. One, you're a jerk. You paid to get in there. Other people paid to get in there because they like to be tricked or whatever. They like to think that this is there. You're ruining a good time. It's like, let's go to the movies and have a good time by ruining everyone else's. There's people like that. But that's entertainment. People paid to get in there. They know it's entertainment. 99% of the people have got to believe that the guy has truly no magic powers, but he's got real good manipulation of his hands, right? He's got a real good show to put on to make you think he's magical, right? So you go to see that show because you want to think he's magical, but in reality he ain't. He's not. In reality he's not. People that are scamming people out of money for no other purpose than to light $500 cigars themselves, right? To burn up that person's hard-earned money and saved money because they feel they deserve it. Or, listen, they gave it to me of their own free will, even though I completely lied to them. Those are the people that you got to shout on and say, that's wrong. That guy's a big joke, right? There's nothing legitimate about him. Nothing legitimate about him. This is what he did. Call him out. Call them out. See someone getting taken. Let the people know, no, that's a big scam. That's a big scam. Let the people know it. You're not getting money for your GWAT. You're not getting a rebate on your SGLI. And call the people out that think you are. Right? Oh, no, this is legit. And here's what they like. Now, again, here's the thing, right? No one likes to be proven wrong on something like that. So a lot of people, some people might go, oh, man, you're right. Now that I think about it, oh, you're right. Well, thanks. I'll stop putting that out. Some people will get their back to the wall. You're just keeping people from getting the benefits they deserve. So now you're the bad guy. I don't know. I worked in PSYOPs, psychological operations, for 10 years in the Army, right? I deployed twice where my main function was running PSYOP campaigns, being a psychological operations operative over there, all right? Haiti and Bosnia. But I also trained, I did all the training, I went to all the schools. It all made sense to me. It's advertising. I can go start up a 501c3 and easily get millions of dollars. it's pretty easy, right? That's not who I am. It's not who I am. There are people that's all they're about. So do your due diligence. Look up any charity you're going to give money to. I'll get excommunicated probably, right? So I like to give monies to charities of my choosing, right? I'm not going to give $5,000 to someone and say, here, you give it out as you see fit, right? The Archdiocese, that first collection at the church, the first collection, money all goes downtown, right? Goes downtown to the Cardinal. Cardinal's office divvies it up where they want to go to. Catholic Charities, everything else, he divvies that money that you gave to your parish up. And maybe the parish gets some of it back. The second collection stays in the parish. Again, I'll choose the charities I give to. I'll give a little bit in the first collection. I'll give the bulk of my money to the second collection because that's my parish. I'm helping my parish on a grassroots level. I don't want to give all my money to the Cardinal so the Cardinal could say, oh, we as Catholic Church gave to this organization that I don't particularly agree with. Right? So sometimes you're giving this money to these charities that are giving it to people that you don't particularly agree with. Sometimes, hey, you think that you're giving to a conservative organization, right? And you're giving to these fundraisers and you think they're conservative, and then you background check the fundraisers, and they're taking 90% of the money. And they're giving more money to their liberal friends on the left than you gave to support the right. Because they're taking an 80% cut. And the CEOs of that, CFOs, they pick who they give that money to, right? Their organization's giving charitable donations. They're not kicking it back to the one. They're not giving it to conservative. They're giving it there. You really got, not only do you got to check out the organization, you got to check out who's doing the fundraising for them. If it's internal, there you go. They're internal. They're doing their own fundraising. If they're using Give, Send, Go, GoFundMe or advertising company, a marketing company, right? Who does that marketing company support? If I give to a pro-life organization that's aggressively advertising to get money, right? Fundraising money. And they pick this aggressive fundraiser because he gets a lot of money. And he gives them 20% of the cut, right? They get 20% of the cut. He gets 80%. And now he's given 30% of his to charity, what he got on that cut. He is actually defeating you by 10%. He is actually working against you. Does this make sense, Paul?
Yeah, it does. And
sadly, again, it's a reality.
I could tell you some horror stories with the church itself. There's a recent one where me and somebody else donated a lot of money for a campaign for some internal stuff. And so it was quite substantial money, really substantial. And the pandemic was coming on. And so we went to the church for Good Friday, and they had a beautiful service. Okay. And the thing we donated was put up in 2022. And the thing we donated for was supposed to have, plaques, because the other person and we donated on behalf of our family, and there's no plaques up. So, just before the service started on Good Friday, I went to the website. It's one of these combined churches now. And I got a hold of the people with the giving. Turns out I was appalled by this. I haven't told my rest. There's an outside organization that the giving is gone to. for a Catholic church in Chicago. All right. And I wrote him a text. I said, me and this other person, we donated, several $1,000s for this, and they were supposed to be plagues. There's no play. Well, to their credit, within an hour, they got back to me. And they said, we're an outside organization. We funnel their gifts back to them. People can charge it, and we give it back to them. But I'll forward your request to them. And then the next Monday, I went to the website of the pastor, and I sent him an email, and then they called. They still haven't resolved the issue about the plaques, but and I know from the last campaign about 10 years ago at my church, we had to go to, I was a part of the sponsor for it. We had to take training from, I believe, a Methodist guy came in. Wasn't even Catholic. Methodist guy comes in, he's helping them run their giving campaign. I don't see where that's on all fours and goes forward, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But apparently they're doing it, and I'm sure they're paying the group. I mean, that group's not working for free either.
These guys are salesmen. They're selling a bill of goods. They're taking their cut. That's how they make their living. All right?
And it's kind of sad because you could get common sense right in your own parish. Question is, maybe some people are burned out. They keep hitting on the same people to make the run the organizations or whatever, which you shouldn't do. But it's appalling to me that they're going outside the religious group for running these things. It's terrible.
Going back to St. Francis, one of the things he did is he went out every day, they say begging, right? But he was soliciting donations to feed the poor, to build these churches, right? He would go knock on door to door. And he died with the stigmata, all right? So
right.
he didn't live in grandiose comfort and everything else, because if you make the money, doesn't Jesus want you to live comfortably and everything? No, he wants you to live. He wants you to live in a state of grace, is what he wants you to do.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
And wasn't St. Francis basically hermit living in a cave by that time anyway?
Well, he was building churches. He started his order, right? He was also going overseas to get guys freed from the Moroccan galleys. All right. He was going on the Crusades with the Crusades. He was talking for peace, right? He was well respected, right? Of course, he didn't keep anything for himself, Didn't keep anything for himself. The thing, he was trying to make everyone charitable, He was living, right? Not greatly. He was eating, he wasn't dying of exposure. He was getting fed and everything, minimally, clothing. But that's like probably less than 1/1000% of the money that he had collected for donations to help everyone else. If you look at an organization and they're spending more money, if they're spending 51% in marketing and 49% is going to good deeds, that's still bad. All right? The good organizations out there are spending like less than 2% on marketing and collections and everything, and all the rest of the money is going to the cause. And I'm not talking about the cause of the CEO's paid, the CEO's this, buildings, everything else, assets. Look up what their assets are, If you're a charity, why do you need a $500 million property?
Why do you need a Gulfstream jet?
No, you don't need any of that. You don't need a jet at all, because now we have Zoom. Right? Oh, I have to go out there, and I got to fly first class to go out there, because I got to be I can't be tired. I can't be dirty. I can't be rubbing elbows with the stinky people, because when I get off that plane, I'm going to have to talk with an important person that's got a lot of money and he's got to respect. That's always the excuses. So, Paul, you got it all. You and Marla got it all next week, because I can't do it. I got to be at a parade for the Little League opening it up in Schiller Park.
Okay.
All right. So, next week, Paul and Marla. Is Marla up for that?
She is.
I don't want to volunteer her without her permission.
No, she'd love to do it.
Paul and Marla next week on the Chief Guard of the Republic show here on 1410 a.m.
Take care, everybody. Have a great week.